We were scheduled to talk about the border anyway, but I cannot begin without getting your top-line thoughts on what's unfolded and what we are learning about this killer.
Well, what we're now seeing is that the rest of the country is getting a glimpse at what we've been dealing with in Texas now for years. Unfortunately, we've been seeing this unfold in Pennsylvania. Now we're seeing the gory details of what happens when you allow untold migrants to bum rush our country in the false name of compassion. We see what happens in Ohio when, as your previous guest noted, you have, I think it was an 11-year-old boy or 10-year-old boy who died by someone who was released by the Biden administration into our country. And here's the thing, what we're not talking about. We're talking about one guy here in Pennsylvania, one guy in Ohio. The Inspector General report just told us that of 1 million people who were released into the United States from the spring of 21 to the summer of 22, 177,000 of them have given us missing information, addresses that don't exist, fake addresses that we have no idea where they are. That's the reality. 60,000 people being released every single day. That's the truth. The truth, and look, Harris, you and I have talked about this on your show many times. I have to sit at another round table in my district with another mom who loses a child to fentanyl poisoning. If I visit with another rancher who's losing his entire livestock and his livelihood getting absolutely destroyed and decimated. The number of individuals getting killed, getting harassed by migrants who come here illegally, criminals, people associated with terrorist organizations. The numbers are off the charts that we're now learning have come into our country. So the simple question, Harris, for my Republican colleagues is, when are you actually going to say enough is enough? When are you actually going to do what you campaign on doing? When are you actually going to hold this administration accountable and use the power of the purse to stop this assault on the American people? That is my position, and I want to know if it's the position of the remainder of the Republican conference.
Look, it's a great question. You and I have spoken about this before with you making that same question and announcement. So there's been some time. What is the answer? What are Republicans telling you on the Hill?
Well, right now, my position is very clear. No security, no funding. I believe that we're seeing an increased understanding by my Republican colleagues because guess what? They were at home in August. They're getting their butts kicked up and down by their constituents from New York to Texas, all the way out to, throughout the entire country. They're seeing the reality of what's happening on the ground, and Republicans will be a total and complete failure. A failure if we do not hold the line and demand that President Biden come to the table, sit down with us, and pass legislation that will no longer fund a Department of Homeland Security at war with the American people. That is it. There is no negotiation on that. Secure the border, or you shouldn't fund the Department of Homeland Security. More and more of my colleagues are starting to understand that. Unfortunately, some Senate Republicans are still hand-wringing around about shutdowns. The American people are tired of all that Beltway speak. They want their country back. That's what this is about.
Congressman from a border state, your governor has told me just in the last few days that 7 million have come across that border. Yeah. While places like New York City, where I sit and work, I don't live here, 110,000 mostly illegal immigrants have come here. He blames the governor of Texas. We all know that the governor didn't put 110,000 people on buses. Many of these people got here on flights paid for by the government. So considering all of those numbers, I want to ask you about the infrastructure here for the illegals when they get here. Cavalcante, native of Brazil, began associating with gang members and became addicted to drugs and alcohol. And his ex-girlfriend was kind of caught, according to reports. She also came from Brazil with him, or they met after they got here, forgive me. But from reports, she could see the degradation in his life. And what is going on when they get here? How is there so much connective tissue between the bad guys coming across the border and the bad guys already among us?
Yeah, Harris, that is the exact right question. Just last year, I went out and met with the sheriff in Culpeper County in Virginia, about an hour west of our nation's capital. And he walked me through the vast network there in Culpeper of cartel-related gangs and activity there, where they went out and busted. They had literal stash houses there. They had girls that were being prostituted out, sold into the sex trafficking business, an hour west of our nation's capital in rural Virginia. That is just a glimpse into the vast network across our country. I said that a year ago. I said that on the House floor. I've said that on news shows, and I'm trying to wake up our colleagues, and not just Republicans, but my Democratic colleagues, to say, when is enough going to be enough? How is this actually good for migrants? It's sure not good for Americans. It's sure not good for our security. It's sure not good for the 73,000 Americans dead from fentanyl poisoning. When is it going to be enough? These migrants who are being thrust into the sex trafficking trade, like we saw in the movie The Sound of Freedom, right? Like you see in the federal judge's orders that I think you and I have talked about before, detailing how an immigrant came to Baltimore and his wife and daughter were being held for $23,000, or they would sexually assault and rape his daughter if he didn't pay that money. That's happening every day. And my Democratic colleagues don't care. And the president doesn't care. And Mayorkas doesn't care. But I care. And I think a growing number of Republicans care. But you will know whether they care on September 30th, if they stand on the wall, like those brave men did at the Alamo and like our forefathers have done, if they stand on the wall and say, enough, Mr. President, you're going to come down here and you're going to answer to us because we have the purse strings.
Well, look, he has to go do that if he wants to put every person coming across that border, if he wants to court drug cartels and have them sit in the state of Texas. If he's willing to lose a state and our republic to the cartel, yeah, he's going to have to come and meet you. September 30th can't come fast enough. Congressman Chip Roy from the great state of Texas, and it really is, and you have done so much along with other border states to try to help the rest of us around the country. But it's bigger than all of us now. Your last quick word.
Yeah, thank you, Harris. God bless. Look, this is something that rises above daily petty politics. I don't want to hear all the hand-wringing. Let's do our job. It is time to stand up and do our job here in this country to preserve and protect it for our kids and grandkids. It's our job.
Congressman, thank you for being in focus.